Hey, Bob Filka here with the Friday finish for the week of June 19th. Had some great success down at the state capitol this week with some bills that will provide some new tools for builders and developers around the state to work with their communities and build more workforce housing that's desperately needed. I'm going to turn that over to Dawn Crandall, our EVP for Government Relations, to explain what happened at the Capitol this week. Dawn.
So it was a busy week downtown. I quit mentioning TIFs, tax increment financing, and I'm happy to report that they passed out of the House with bipartisan support this week. About 72 yes votes, with Republicans and Democrats supporting that legislation. And what that does is it allows residential to be included in capturing for that gap financing for brownfield land bank projects. So if you're looking for more information on that, please feel free to email me and I'm happy to share. Those bills do need to go back to the Senate for concurrence. We expect that to happen next week. And then we'll have to find a couple of Republicans to vote for immediate effect so those bills can go to the governor's desk and be signed into law, which will provide another tool in the toolbox for builders and developers and nonprofits to create workforce housing in communities. The other piece of legislation that we supported was transformational brownfield. It was a Senator Moss bill. It passed out of the House this week. It needs to go back to the Senate for concurrence as well. And all that does is raise the cap from $40 million to $80 million. It was a busy week in committees this week. We were in the Senate Labor Committee and we opposed project labor agreements and local preemption repeal. It's an interesting conversation downtown. Everything revolves around housing, and with the local preemption repeal, what they're looking for is for local units of government to be able to set local minimum wages and employment packages for those businesses within their communities. Interestingly enough, they tie that to if locals can do that, then employees in their communities will be able to afford housing. We will be putting together very specific and targeted memos to members on both the Senate Labor Committee and the House Labor Committee with data showing exactly what the sale price of a home is in those legislators' districts. And if they want to have an honest conversation about housing attainability and affordability and what local units of government can do, we're happy to have that conversation, but removing local preemption and allowing locals to have the ability to set fees and employment package rates, that is not the place to have the conversation. Also, House and Senate Energy Committees were busy this week. The Senate Democrats, probably about a month ago, introduced their legislative package to the My Healthy Climate plan that the governor has. We have opposed at least one bill in that package, Senate Bill 274. They will be having hearings and meetings and communications all summer long on that package, and so we will be sure to keep you up to date as those move forward. The House also unveiled their own package within the last week. That was in committee this week. We were unable to make it because I've been triple booked, but we'll be having conversations on the House side as well. We are also in local government in the House. There is a revenue sharing package where revenue sharing for local units of government will be tied to sales tax. So if sales tax does well, local units of government will receive their percentages based on sales tax to the state. Next week will also be a busy week, so stay tuned on the TIF legislation, on further PLA and local preemption. I believe energy will continue, and of course, as I've mentioned time and time again, it is appropriation season, and so they are still working on hashing out what the fiscal year budget will look like. As all that takes place, we also expect to see two more bills pass out of the House next week, which would be, I believe the number is 4273. It was a representative grant bill that would allow a local city with a certain population in a county that does not have a land bank to create their own. We supported that bill. I also expect Senate Bill 302 and 303, which we have opposed in the House and Senate, that requires under the PACE program that you build above the energy code. I suspect that will also pass out of the House this week and probably will have to go back to the Senate for concurrence. So with all of that, if you ever have any questions on what is taking place, please feel free to email me or give me a shout. And we also had an amazing leaders of the legislature this morning. We had Representative Kevin Coleman and Representative Aragona on. They are the chair and minority vice chair of the housing subcommittee in the House. If you did not participate, you missed a great conversation. We have videotaped that, and I'm sure we'll be sending that out, but I hope you have a great weekend.
And that's a wrap for this week's Friday Finish. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you next week.